Who's that?
Whoa.
Whoa.
Hi. I'm about to get creative. Drop a hint, pick up and get it. Never left, don't let me want it. All it takes to make me get wanted. Save you by your name, or baby, still you always be my maybe. We can touch or make it real. I just like the way it feels. I just like the way it feels. When my fingers touch the screen, it gets physical. You got everything I need, it's medicinal. If I didn't have you now, I'd be miserable. Is this typical? My friends that are digital. Is this typical? Friends that are digital. I'm about to get creative. Drop a hint, pick up and get it. Never left, don't let me want it. All it takes to make me get wanted. Save you by your name, or baby, still you always be my maybe. We can touch or make it real. I just like the way it feels. I just like the way it feels. When my fingers touch the screen, it gets physical. You got everything I need, it's medicinal. If I didn't have you now, I'd be miserable. Is this typical? For friends that are digital. Is this typical? I just like the way it.
Who's that?
Whoa.
Whoa.
Hi.
It's a slap. It's a knock. It's a bounce. It's a pop. It's a slap. It's a knock. It's a bounce. It's a pop. It's a slap. It's a knock. It's a knock.
Nyamukela na ito. You're the one I adore. You're the one, I adore. Joanna,
Got my head on my shoulders, I know that I'll never lose my grip. Though I'm nice, I ain't naive, I don't have to put up with your shit. Did what I did just to get out. Now it's on me with no rules apply. If tonight I'm pretty in my eyes, yeah, now I know my own love. Dancing with myself, dancing with nobody else. So come over if you dare, but I'm just too confused. Dancing with myself, no, I don't need no one else. So I hope you understand that I'm just too confused. Dancing with myself, no, I don't need no one else. So I hope you understand that I'm just too confused. They call me Miss Independent. No, I don't need to get with you. If I'm being honest, promise that's one less to tell me what to do. Did what I did just to get out. Now it's on me with no rules applying. Tonight I'm pretty in my eyes. Yeah, now I know my own love. Dancing with myself, dancing with nobody else. So come over if you dare, but I'm just so confused. Dancing with myself, no, I don't need no one else. So I hope you understand that I'm just so confused. Dancing with myself.
I guess it's about time. Kind of start getting ready here.
Yeah, I'm intrigued because it sounds like you started a cult that I didn't know about with sexy nuns.
I was unaware of this too. The stuff that happens on Twitch is just astounding.
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going on half the time. Like, what is happening in the chat right now?
I think Garen wants you to be his daddy. It sounds like.
Oh God. Okay. All right. I'm not gonna say yes, no, whatever. All right, let's start the show. Come on. Oh, God. God, he just called me daddy.
He did.
What the hell, man?
Distance nerding.
Hey! Whoa, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. It is time. Apparently, I am Twitch Daddy.
Ooh, dad pool.
Dad pool, yes. That's a thing. That is it. Copyright. Sure, he's already a thing, but still. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your boy, Young Phil. This handsome only beard attached to the man that has a distance starting hat on. That man is Graveyard.
Yes.
And we are here to nerd
Nerd
together. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday. It is time for the build. If you're unfamiliar with this show, it's your first time watching it, which I think everybody in the chat watches pretty religiously at this point. Pun intended.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Darren. This is the show where I build Lego on stream while we interview guests on the show. And then the later half of the show, we're going to continue our brackets and continue having all the fun that we have here. So before we bring the guest on, and I should probably change the screen there. All right. Before we bring the guests on here, let's talk, I guess, paying the bills.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk sponsors, because ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by, or I guess the channel itself is brought to you by Pod Decks. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Pod Decks are a unique interview question and episode starting prompt in the palm of your hand. So whether you are a new podcaster or an existing broadcaster looking to grow your audience and get more engagement, level up with Pod Decks. Now, if you download the Pod Decks app, you can use the code NERDING10. Get 10% off your order. A whole bunch of fun stuff. We use Pod Decks a lot. Matter of fact, we do close-up magic with our Pod Decks, and if you want to see a little bit of that, boom, close-up magic. There you go.
Yes. I had to venture into the how dare you deck.
Oh no, that scares me. What's our question of the day, man?
I don't. Correct me if we've had this one before. If you could choose a way to die, what would it be?
I don't think we have.
Yeah.
If I could choose a way to die,
Mhm.
the soldier in me has a certain answer, and then me and me has an answer. Like the warrior in me says I want to die in combat, but I mean, like the me is like in my sleep with no pain.
I would be I very much reminded of The Meaning of Life by Monty Python, the opening sketch where the man is being chased by a bunch of naked women and he falls into his casket and dies.
Jesus. All right.
If you had to choose, I mean,
I'm sure that's how Darren would want to die too.
Snoo Snoo, Death by Snoo Snoo. I mean,
Snoo Snoo. Okay. God, man. With that being said, if the channel is brought to you by Pod Decks, and you may be wondering, how does young Phil have all this energy all the time and just continuously is just doing these shows, especially considering that I'm doing daily game streams now? I'll tell you what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Young Phil and all of his ridiculous energy is brought to you by. I'm sorry, I pressed the wrong button and now my thing is all screwed up.
one day you'll get this right.
I know. It's like it's almost like I'm a professional at this, right? Young Phil is brought to you by Debbie. That's right. Debbie is a brand of energy drinks created to help focus, concentration, reaction time with no jitters or crash. Debbie contains no maltodextrin, no sugars, no fillers, no artificial colors or dyes, and it is completely delicious. Now, Debbie has about 1,000 different flavors. I've actually just ordered 3 of their new flavors, one of them being a cherry limeade. The other one, I know, right? The other one is a white gummy, which I'm excited for. And then
is that like the mystery flavor of Airheads?
Yeah, probably.
Sweet.
And then the new hydration flavor, it's called Pineberry.
Pineberry.
Try and guess what that flavor is.
My guess is it's gonna be like a Christmas tree mixed with a berry.
You got it right. It's cranberries and pine nuts. No, it's strawberry pineapple.
I mean, today's world, you never know. I mean, people would probably drink it. It tasted like pine.
They probably would. We tried a pine drink and it tasted disgusting. Shout out to you, Mountain Dew fruitcake flavor. It tasted like pine trees. All right. Debbie has Neurofactor. Neurofactor is a neurotropic derived from the coffee fruit. I lost the copy and I'm just whatever. 150 milligrams keeps you all hopped up on not Mountain Dew, guys, head over to w.gg, use the code nerding10, get 10% off your order. Completely worth it. I just used it and it's delicious. What up, saying Grand Admiral Phil and Raveyard.
Yes, nothing says raves like the Dutch guy.
Yeah, the Dutch guy that doesn't dance. All right. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we've gotten that out of the way. So let's introduce our guests here because I'm ready. I don't know about you, man, but I'm ready.
I'm always ready.
Yeah, you read the book, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had no doubt. I know you well enough to know that you read it. I read it. It was great, man. It's kind of like I started going like, okay, see where the story goes, and then it just gets more and more and more intense as you go through it, and then like the little lulls between things are just like, oh, they're still doing badass stuff. So like, it's dope for being a historical piece, and I loved it. So I mean, today's guests are part of an international team of creators who came together to produce a beautiful and historic work highlighting the history of Filipino heritage and warrior culture. Here to talk about their book. I guess I wrote that down wrong. I wrote their book.
Their book.
Here to talk about their comic book, Dasig. Please welcome from Team Dasig, Lauren Lola and Christian Caboy. Hold on, where's my button? Right there. Yay!
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How is everyone doing?
Oh, we're doing great. We're doing great out here.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, like I said, as Phil was saying, I was able to read your book. I stopped watching him gaming just to read it at my lunch. So yeah,
either the
I'm
book
excited.
was really good or his gaming was very boring. It could be either one.
I mean, yeah. With me, I mean that's exactly it. I'm playing a game that became a horror game, but is definitely not. It's a RoboCop game. So it's like, what just happened? What's going on right now?
Voice like, hello.
Yeah, but still, no. I reread it again last night because I was like, okay, I'm gonna go through this again, and I liked it probably more the second time than I did the first time, mainly because of just kind of like seeing the things that I didn't notice the first time, or then after doing research the first time I read the book, because there's references to titles and things like that I wasn't familiar with. So went and looked it up. Like I didn't know what that was. Me being I'm not Filipino, but going and looking what it was, and then rereading the book and everything, just kind of having more and more rich story in it, and it just made the story better knowing the history of things. So you guys did a great job putting together not only just something that was historical, but also that had a lot of good substance in the story, a lot of good action going through everything like that, and just kind of highlighting the badassness of and that's a word that I'm going to use here, the badassness of the main character, and just kind of like her journey and everything that she went through to get where she ends up being.
Cool. I mean, that was the goal. I mean, I personally, when I watch a doc or a film, and then I go on this big Google search and Wikipedia, and going on page 5 of Google, finding some random tidbits. So I mean, that's what I like. Other than having something that just tells you everything, it's like might as well read a textbook. So right. I'm glad you did that. That was something that we kind of struggled with, I guess, on my part. We're like, all right, come from the education space, do we over explain? But I think it was the right move. Lauren also helped keep us in check too, by not cramming too much academic or facts and stuff, because that's the world I come from.
Right. And I mean, again, that's a sign of good writing, where you can kind of enthrall yourself into a story, and it doesn't feel like it's preaching to you, or it doesn't feel like it's doing anything where again, like you just said, like reading a textbook, just like that, and you're getting good historical fact along with an entertaining story. I mean, anytime you do anything historical, that's the best balance to do it.
Well,
Yeah, and Phil,
before-
I think you said before, Phil, that you're not Filipino. I mean, the fact that you took the time to look up what you didn't know before, I think explains a lot of how accessible it is to have that information without having it right in front of you in the comic book. So yeah, I think it speaks, the fact that you're able to pick up on that and understand the nuance of it really speaks to how this does have the reach even outside the Philippine American community.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, I grew up in the Bay Area. I'm not Filipino, by birth, but my mom was adopted, and my grandfather was Filipino. So I mean, I grew up in that culture between San Francisco and Daly City. So
Oh, there you go. You're adopted. I mean, you say Daly City. You are. I mean, I know Filipinos that look like the both of you. So
yeah. I'm culturally Pinoy, but I'm not like actually Pinoy.
Yeah, all good. All good. I mean, and I think with this, that was kind of the goal, is to have a universal story. I mean, if you saw what was that, the latest Predator film, Prey? It's like, shoot, that's what we were trying to do, and that came out, and I thought, okay, there is a market, and that was a hit too, right? So everyone was geeking out about it, and it was made really cheap, I guess, but it was that's probably one of the better films of, was it last year that came out?
Yeah. And if that was your goal, if that's what you were going for, was to do kind of like and not to minimize it, but like to do like a Filipino Prey, then job accomplished. You accomplished your job. It definitely has that kind of like appeal to it, where it's like, oh, I want to know what's going to happen in the next page. Like, it becomes a page turner really, really well.
Yeah. So initially, this was supposed to be an animation film, and we kind of went through the process of figuring out, like, what's this thing going to cost, and how can we do it quickly. It's not, I'm impatient, so and animations take years, but was there a way we could do it that where it can look kind of like a I guess not any Pixar quality or anything like that, but something that is good, and it still takes a long time and hell of a lot of money. So we thought about pivoting to a graphic novel. The model was Trece. I don't know if y'all read Trece. It's a Philippine supernatural horror graphic novels that got made into a Netflix series.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you should check that out.
You are speaking Graveyard's language right now.
Oh, horror, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm all for
Yeah.
anything horror. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a horror / noir. It's well done. But Trece, it's on Netflix. 12, 13 episodes, I believe. So that was kind of the model, and I think maybe we could sell this thing. And what's interesting, that I know now the head of Netflix, Dan Lin, and he is the CEO of Rideback Ranch, producer of all the Lego films. I think they produced the Avatar series that's a hit now that just got renewed.
Yes.
So
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to use these contacts that I've made just through the previous work that I've done, and maybe we can get this thing made into a film.
Which, by the way, has a Filipino lead.
Yes. Just found that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely watch this if it's if it was made into animated film or TV show, or even just a straight up movie too, just because it is, it was riveting. Like, I got done with it, and I looked at the page count. I'm like, okay, I got done with it. I'm like, wow, that was, it seemed short. Like, I wanted more.
Didn't feel as long as it.
Yeah.
It did not. Because the whole thing is I kept I kept going through it and going like, oh man, well, I want to know what's going to happen next. I want to know what's going to happen next. And it, like, by the time the end of the story, I look up and I'm like, 128 pages.
I think it's a little longer than that, but yeah, definitely under 200 for sure.
Yeah, some folks were telling us that you should have made it a series and things like that, but I felt like, you know, it just had to be, you know, a one shot, something that's kind of epic. I mean, it's this, you know, oversized, big, black, you know, minimal book. And design wise, Joe Achilleson, who designed it, you know, we thought, you know, what if we make it kind of look like a coffee table book, an art book, you know, this kind of his background there. And so we experimented and as if it was a film. And you notice there's a lot of spacing and, you know, we were very, you know, conscious about that.
Yeah, no, it's again, it's in the artwork is beautiful. It was really well done. I just realized I was so excited to talk about the book that we like jumped out of our normal format and just jumped right into the book. So we're gonna backtrack just a little bit here, right? So normally the way we start this whole thing is we start off with intro questions, just to kind of, you know, let the audience know who you guys are and your thought process and the way that you look at things, right? So I've got a couple questions for you guys here before we jump back into the questions, talking more about Dasig and talking about you guys individually. So for each of you, if a movie was made based on your life, who would you want to play you and why?
You can go first, Christian.
My life. I've lived in the Philippines for 10 years after high school. So I would say that would probably be a pivotal moment in my life. An actor, maybe that kid in Avatar, I think. You know, I think, you know, I was a bit older, but I think he could play a younger version of me.
Nice.
Yeah.
As for me, I mean, I grew up in the Bay. I lived here my whole life. I'm third generation Filipino American, and I'm also mixed race. So a bit of a unique experience on my end. But yeah, I don't know if I could think of anyone who could play me. I feel like this would be a good opportunity to cast someone who's unknown.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
Or you could play yourself. There you go.
There you go.
Just use CGI or AI or something like that to, you know, make yourself kind of like a Benjamin Button yourself, or
Benjamin Button yourself.
yeah.
It doesn't require that much.
I was gonna say, as we all know, you know, Filipinos don't age until they hit 90. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, I just visited Wangod, so for those that don't know, she's the over 100-year-old tattoo practitioner up in the mountains. I visited her in January and got a tattoo from her, and
Wow.
she was out there pretty young and, you know, making jokes and, you know, really moving around, you know, even after tattooing, say, 100 people a day, because that's what she does.
And you're a big tattoo enthusiast, right?
Yeah, so I study I'm a what's called a cultural tattoo practitioner, so hand tap tattooing, and so I'm doing it now finally. Been on the Bart Simpson 10-year program, but I've finally graduated to venture out on my own. And so that's actually a part, you know, a little spoiler, you know, there is some tattooing within this this graphic novel. And, you know, it's something that we wanted to do, is to put in these little tidbits. And you may notice, you know, an homage in there. But I think that's why we call this, you know, edutainment, you know, education and entertainment. And I think there's a market for that.
Oh, for sure. And it kind of gives a good introduction to with the other part is growing up geeky. So obviously you're talking about learning about tattoos and stuff like that. What else did you kind of geek out on growing up and that have kind of paved your way here?
I mean, shoot, growing up. I mean, everything from video games and Voltron. I was fortunate enough to grow up like pre-internet. Where we only had like 4 channels on the TV, so you had to watch everything from the Jetsons to Brady Bunch, and then when cable came out, and geeking out on the new technology, which is like a CD player and Blu-ray, even Laserdisc, VHS, and going through all of these technology things. So that's why now, I get frustrated with kids, oh, this is too slow, and shoot. Remember, pre-internet, things were really slow. If you miss a movie in the movie theater, next time you're going to see it is 10 years, after it was out. So I think, that kind of gave, me, growing up like that, a benefit of having patience as well.
Graveyard, tell them what you have a collection of.
I have a collection of about 350 laser discs.
Oh, dang. That's a lot.
It's funny.
I think I missed that era. I don't know what a laser disc looks like.
It's a record sized CD.
It's a really, really big DVD. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's like it's massive.
They're easily scratched too.
Yes, they are.
Ooh.
They are. And it's funny because I have 3 kids between the ages of 8 and 12. They don't really know what a DVD is. So when I have lasers, it's like, what's that? I'm like, well, they don't know what a record is. They don't know what a DVD is. They definitely don't know what a CD is. So I'm like, okay, so this is just giant disc that plays crappy quality movies. However, they are the best source for the theatrical releases of movies, in particular Star Wars. So they're the best quality of the OG before George Lucas went in and kind of touched everything up.
And I believe you have to flip them over, right?
Yep.
Yes. So
it's like a cassette too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like think how some vinyl's double sided too. So it's just a double sided DVD. I think it holds like the size of a CD though. It's very small for how much data it actually holds, because you can have like one movie take up 4 laser discs, 2 sides each. So like Titanic was like 8 discs, I think.
I didn't realize Titanic came out on Laserdisc.
Laserdisc stopped in 2002.
They were still making it.
It's from 1975 to 2002.
The last Laserdisc I had was in like 93.
Yes. Yeah, Japan kept it going for a very long time. So
I did not realize that Laserdisc was still around up until 2002.
Maybe that's why I feel like I'm not familiar with them, because I guess by the time they were starting to phase out, I was still pretty young at the time. So like my awareness of it was just not there.
Right. Well, what about you, Lauren? What did you geek out on as a kid?
I mean, I was born in the 90s. I came of age in the 2000s. So, a bit younger than Christian. I know that Pokemon, it initially came to the States when I was a kid. So I remember when that was a hype. Just getting to watch the anime and whatnot. I also grew up, watching Star Wars and also enjoying Studio Ghibli films as well, which again, I think also came over to the US in that era. Just like, I don't know, the 90s was just like a poignant time for pop culture that I only have so much memory for because I was so young at the time. But just getting to look back on it in retrospect, it felt like the era alone was a proper home for it that, my generation can't help but get nostalgic over.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was born in the 80s, but definitely more of a kid in the 90s because I don't remember most of the 80s.
I mean,
there we go.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, you mentioned Laserdisc. I mean, as when I started, I guess what you call adulting, I bought
Mhm.
all the stuff that I couldn't afford as a kid.
Right.
So it's like, all right, it's kind of like revenge. And all right, yeah. And I remember moving back from the Philippines, and I got a $15,000 credit card limit. I filled that up, and all right, let me get these Kurosawa or Toshiro Mifune action figures from Japan that cost $500 a piece. No big deal. And I didn't know anything about APR and all that, so I started buying all these things. And now that I think you mentioned Laserdisc, I think the last thing I bought was real nerdy, was a VHS tape of Blade Runner, because I wanted to watch it the way I remember it as a kid. I didn't
Mhm.
want to see I wanted to get all the dirt and all of that stuff. And so, I bought that, and what was this? Shogun Assassin
Okay.
on VHS. Good movies.
I'm 100% jealous at all the names you just dropped right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely don't have 3 different versions of Blade Runner and Laserdisc. No, not at all.
I mean, you get them too because they're just like albums, right? The
Mhm.
cover art, and they have liner notes, just like how records have. So that's the advantage too of those Laserdiscs. So I
Oh
got
yeah.
a couple. Looking for I do have the original Lone Wolf and Cub series on
Oh
Laserdisc.
Oh
man,
wow.
Yeah, but I don't have a Laserdisc player. But I bought them just for like the cover art and
Mhm.
the inserts.
I'm sure Graveyard could find a place where you can buy a Laserdisc player just to watch that. I mean, to watch watch it in Laserdisc, like the glory of that movie, because I mean, it's still going to be better than the original as far as the quality goes on Laserdisc than it would be on VHS.
Yeah, they're on HBO now. All those
Mhm.
Japanese Chumbra
Mhm.
movies like Zatoichi, they're all there, but it just doesn't feel the same. I don't know why. Maybe their Criterion collection, they
Mhm.
fix them up, but I don't know. I think when you're younger, you appreciate the struggle, hunting for something. Like I used to order bootleg Japanese samurai films from some dude in New York, burned on CDR, and yeah, it would take sometimes months. But now it's like, shoot, you could just watch it on demand, pay $15 a month or something, and I don't know. They just put them in your queue and you never watch them.
Yep. I agree. I remember hunting for the original Ghostbusters cartoon on any DVD, and they didn't exist. So you're able to buy copies of someone burning it for you on DVD, just so you're able to watch the original Ghostbusters. But yeah, now streaming came to be. So
I think the only thing that I can somewhat relate to would be just there was this show from the, the late 90s that I really liked on Disney Channel called So Weird. It was during their like Zook Disney era. People remember that. But after they stopped airing it in like 2004 or whatever,
Mhm.
it just did not appear anywhere for years officially by Disney. Not until Disney Plus launched in 2019 and was made available on there for the first time,
Right.
which was a miracle for us fans because it's like, oh my god, they're actually acknowledging that it exists. Because up until then, all we had were like VHS rips that people would upload onto YouTube that would occasionally get taken down by Disney. But yeah, even now, almost 5 years after Disney Plus is launched, they're still on there. So it seems like Disney really does not care if they're there or not.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's kind of like something what we had to rely on. Just having the quality that was like that VHS quality, and also because it was recorded from when it was airing on TV, that you would also get little snippets of like the commercials that would air in between time. Yeah, just really captures an era, I have to say.
Mhm. Oh, for sure.
If you didn't see what was on the screen a second ago, I've got the original trilogy
Yeah.
on VHS,
Yep.
and I went out and bought
Wow.
I went out and bought a VHS player just so I could watch these. These are the CBS Fox.
Mhm.
This is like, yeah, this is back in the day VHS.
Oh, it's not called A New Hope, this one. This
Yeah.
is before it was called A New Hope.
Right. This
Yes.
this is the first VHS run of Star Wars.
Mhm. I say one points out they have many different versions. I do have the CBS run on Laserdisc. I do have the OG run that was theatrical release, and I do have the special edition as well. So the only thing I really want to get is the Matrix on Laserdisc, which does exist, because I think it'd be the most ironic thing to do. Watch the futuristic tech on the oldest tech possible.
Yeah, that would be expensive. What is it, like $100?
It's about 750. So I have not.
Oh,
What?
wow.
It's 99. It's towards the last American release Laserdisc. So
For a laser disc?
oh, there's more expensive than that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Most
Huh.
anime is hundreds of dollars per disc, unfortunately.
Oh, I was looking for the original Ghost in the Shell. I remember that was expensive, like a Japan release. I think I found one. It was like graded or something crazy like that. You know, people get those things graded. It's crazy.
Right. For sure. All right, you ready for the biggest segue ever, Phil? Talk about preserving history. Let's talk about your book and the history that you have in your book.
Oh man, what a segue! Just you and Frey are the king and queen of segue here. Well, let's actually do this. Let's go a little bit more in depth on you guys here. So, Lauren, I've got a couple questions for you, like specifically. So you're a writer, right?
Yes.
How and when did your love for writing come about? Like when did you realize that you this is something you wanted to do?
Well, I've been writing since I could walk. Okay, well, maybe not since I could walk, but I've been telling stories since I could walk. I've been one of those kids who've just been writing my whole life, but it wasn't until like right before my third year of college that I made the decision to start taking it more seriously. And so that has manifested in the form of writing and publishing my own 2 novels prior to Dasig, writing, plays for like local community theaters and whatnot. I'm currently enrolled in the professional program in screenwriting through UCLA, so there's another track I'm taking with that as well. And then just like this past year or two, also getting into the comics world through Dasig, and also consulting and writing for the Olympia comics that Pat Janelsa oversees.
Yeah, that's great. Like I said, it's the writing is, I think, obviously a huge part of the comic world, and the pacing of it too. I don't want to spoil anything, but you have, there's panels between dialogue, and I think that also speaks well to the story as a whole.
I would hope so. Yeah, that was something that some people have told me, is that like, oh, there's not a lot of dialogue in parts of Dasig, and I did that intentionally because I know that ultimately the visuals are the ones that are speaking when it comes to comics and graphic novels. And I was already familiar with Ponzi's artwork prior to doing Dasig, so I already knew what he was capable of. So what I would do is just like make as many opportunities as possible where it's just, his work telling the story.
So
I was gonna say for the audience out there, she's talking about Ponzi. Ponzi is the artist on the book.
Yeah, Ponzi Alfonso.
Nice. So I mean, so you did study screenwriting then, right? In college?
Oh, I'm doing not in college. That came after college. Like I said, I'm in a screenwriting program now through UCLA.
Now, do you think that translates well into the comics world for you?
I think so, yeah. Again, because they're both very visual mediums. But I think really the main difference would just be that the format is a bit different. I've been told, rightfully so, by some of my instructors that like screenwriting is like one of the most limiting forms of creative writing. And yeah, I guess see a lot of truth to that. But then because, it's such a collaborative process with so many people involved. Not to say that isn't the case for comics and graphic novels too, because, obviously you have a writer, you have an illustrator and other people involved in that. But, it doesn't require as big of a village to bring out a story in comics.
So for you, what inspirations do you have for writing? This is something that like, hey, I kind of, I'd say model after, but kind of draw inspiration from. Is there any in particular?
not anything super concrete. I mean, yeah, Darren, screenwriting is a bit difficult to learn. Although the fact that I started off with writing for the stage made the transition a bit easier, just because the mediums are kind of similar. But going back to your question, as far as inspiration goes, I don't know. It kind of depends on the project as well. Like there isn't like one main source where I'm just like, this is my go-to if I'm running low on inspiration. Like since we're talking about Dasig, I'll just speak to what I can as far as inspiration goes. Like, because I know that Christian has his inspiration, like Akira Kurosawa and what have you. But for me, like I would pull from Star Wars, especially with the dynamic between Dasig and Datu, which is almost like a master Padawan situation. And then just like in terms of like some of the more humorous bits and also the more philosophical moments, I felt, and also the execution of the dialogue where it feels very contemporary despite it being several hundred years ago. That was drawn from just modeling off of how that execution is approached in Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated series, mind you.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely see that dynamic there that you're talking about, you know, with the master and apprentice. And, you know, it felt so it's perfectly natural too. So it led to the story, I think, really well.
Oh, good.
Now, with what you're doing with screenwriting and stuff like that, do you, and you know, this having started life as potential, you know, animated series, do you guys take that aspect of where the camera positioning would be if you were to shoot it on film or for animation and kind of just apply it then into the comic?
I mean, it's not super straightforward, only because there was a draft of a screenplay of Dasig prior to transitioning to making a graphic novel. So I think because of the fact that it was still super rough, like it was, you know, nowhere near ready to becoming more than that. It really just allowed for more liberties in, you know, building off of what I already had. And I'm not sure if camera angles would really be one that comes to mind, honestly. But again, there's more liberties with writing for comics and graphic novels. So I don't know, maybe to some extent.
So is this your first comic that you've written then?
It is, yes.
So how did you get into the comics? Was it just out of necessity of changing the story into a different medium?
I don't know. I think part of it, like when Christian initially suggested the idea of turning into a graphic novel, I thought, yes, that's a great idea. Let's do that, especially since I've never written for that medium before. And I have the software to do that. So I felt like it would be a good opportunity to play with that. But even prior to that, like I had already consulted for one of the Lumpia comics. So I already had an idea of just like how to approach it as far as a writer goes. But yeah, it was just really the matter of like this opportunity came up and I felt like this was a good opportunity to learn. So I went for it.
Nice. Which we're also massive fans of the entire Deep Fried universe.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah. I was watching your interview with Pat they did a few weeks ago prior to doing this one.
Yeah. So, you know, he's a good buddy of ours, and we're like, you know, this needs to happen. We haven't had him on the show yet, so there. So, but yeah, no, you know, we're fans of that universe. The comics are great and everything like that. Of course, Diego working on a lot of that, and Lawrence, who kind of got us into this whole Halo world and everything like that. So, yeah.
Nice.
For sure. And someone from chat would like to know, what's the writing process like for writing comics for you?
The writing process. I mean, I'm someone who likes to outline prior to writing, and sometimes that could be very detailed down to the different points of a conversation. So I start off with that, and then from there, once it definitely serves as a good guide for knowing what I'm getting into, but I also leave enough room for seeing what else can be explored there. Writing Dasig was a bit of a process, just because like we were also funding for it on Kickstarter at the same time as I was writing it. But I don't know. Ultimately, it wasn't too arduous of a process. Again, also because of the fact that I had already written as a screenplay, so I had that as a guide as well. But yeah, just being aware of the medium that I was writing for, on top of that, just made way for new opportunities to really expand the story.
I mean, were you able to condense everything you wanted to from the screenplay down into the comic?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I definitely made some modifications from the screenplay as well, because again, it was rough. Like I said, like there was no way if we were to take that and then immediately go to pre-production, I'd be like, that is a mistake. So like I said, it allowed for opportunities to not only improve on it but also grow from it. So yeah.
Nice. You know, so you talk about you have a format or a program you're able to convert from screenwriting to a comic, right?
Wait, sorry, I was getting distracted by that.
Did you say that you had a program that helped you write the screenplay and convert it into comic format?
Not so much convert. I use Final Draft, which is like
Okay.
the industry standard for screenwriters in Hollywood. Like 95% of working writers in Hollywood use Final Draft, but it's not just the screenplay format that's available on there. You can also write stage plays on there. You can also write comics on there. So yeah, that's how I was able to have access to being able to write Dasig on there. But I was not able to convert it from one to the other.
Mm-hmm. Now, with your screenplay that you had in place, did that help outline the all the panels of the comics of what you wanted to show for the settings? Would then be the textless panels of the comic, and then give it over to the artist to then draw.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, again, like there was only so much that I could pull from the screenplay just because it was so rough. But yeah, I only took what I needed from it, and then the rest of it I was able to build off of it. I know I feel like I keep saying the same answer over and over again, but yeah, like really there was only so much I could pull from the screenplay because ultimately, like I wanted it to be different and grander for the graphic novel.
Right.
For sure. I mean, as a writer, what it was like to see then your screenplay and your words kind of translated into a medium that you're able to see? Was it kind of what you envisioned in your head while you were writing that?
Sort of, but I mean, Ponzi, I think, is a really remarkable artist. And like, I've gotten so many comments and compliments from people like, oh my God, the artwork is so good. And like, yeah, rightfully so. He's very good at what he does. So like, while I have somewhat of an idea in my head as I'm writing a scene, you know, like Ponzi just takes it to new levels and just, you know, I can't get, like when I first got my own copy of it, I just couldn't stop flipping through the pages. I'm like, oh my God, it's so gorgeous.
That it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would 100% agree with that sentiment. It is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even the gory scenes, they're gorgeous.
Yes,
they are. And I wanna discuss that because, you know, they're I mean, I don't want to jump right into that, but I mean, kind of, you know, there is an aesthetic choice that was made, and I definitely want to talk about those aesthetics. But before we do that, I've got one more question, just kind of in this line of questions that we've been asking here. So Lauren, if there were a writer you could collaborate with, dead or alive, anybody, who would be your number one pick?
Oh man, that's a good question. I don't know. There are so many writers out there whose works I enjoy, and then there's writers out there whose works I haven't read a ton of yet, but I'm really excited for. I don't know. This is a hard question.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's just one. I don't know if there's just one person I can choose. So I don't know.
We tend to ask the hard questions here at Distance 30.
Great.
So, switching a little bit of gear here, Christian. So you're the leading authority on pre-Filipino script. So, like, what inspired you to study in that field?
So growing up as a kid, I was into graffiti and tagging, and it was just a natural. Once I discovered, I found out about the script because, I kind of wanted to be like Indiana Jones as a kid, right? So I was going through these old books, and I found out about the script, and I thought, oh, this is kind of cool, and I just got into it, and so it wasn't really until I moved to the U.S. back to the U.S. from the Philippines, and as sort of like as a therapy, I kind of retreated to art and got back into writing the script, calligraphy, and things like that. And so from there, I started to, post things online, and people started asking me for help, like, hey, can you write my name, or tell me these, real intimate and personal stories, like my grandfather passed away, or my father was Filipino and I didn't really know him, or my kids don't really know much, so they would kind of ask me for help, and that's where I kind of discovered that okay, it goes beyond the aesthetics of the writing and the art, so there was something much deeper, and so from there is that's where I just got known for. Because anyone can learn the script, you just read Wikipedia, watch some YouTube videos, but it's how you apply it to, the people, the culture, in modern times.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome that you got into that field, and you're able to be that point for a lot of people.
Yeah, and most of the people that were maybe there were some tattoo artists, but prior to me coming on the scene, most of them were academics. And most academics, they're kind of they don't have a personality, or they're kind of snotty, and so. But I was a young dude, out, listen to hip hop and talk about all this nerd stuff, or I was within the same generation that people were asking for help, and so making it into a contemporary art, but at the same time talking about contemporary issues, and contextualizing it for those in America. I think that's where my vision for taking this kind of hit.
I gotta ask, were you a b-boy back in the day?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I got bad knees. So
I was like, oh man, I gotta. It's probably a stereotype, but I gotta jump out there because most of the guys I used to break with were all Filipino. So I mean, like,
yeah. You probably knew a bunch of Filipino DJs too, right?
yep.
Exactly. So I did a little bit of that too. So I think that's something that, especially growing up in the 80s and then all the way into the 90s, that's something you kind of retrieve to, and at the time, hip hop had much deeper message, back then in the 80s and 90s, so we didn't have our Drake, and there was Two Live Crew, and talking about all that stuff too, but there's a deeper socio-political message that a lot of folks kind of resonated with. And so I think that's why you see a lot of Filipinos during that time get into b-boying, DJing, and then having it extend into like activism, education, things like that.
Got love for the four elements of hip hop, man.
Yep, there you go.
James asking, where did you grow up?
So grew up a couple places. Born in the Philippines, then the usual story. Family leaves to escape a dictator, for a better life, for the land of milk and honey. But and then grew up in, let me see, the Mission in San Francisco, Excelsior. Then after a couple of years,
I'm gonna
There
miss
you go.
you, Rays, man.
There you go. Then you moved to the East Bay. Then after that, I went to the Philippines for 10 years after high school, and then now I'm back. But yeah, I think my younger years here in the Bay Area, and then my adult years in the Philippines.
And of course, James finally showing up in the chat because he's on Filipino time, so we know.
There you go.
It's James times, yeah. So
a lot of creatives.
You grow up around enough Filipinos, Filipino time is a thing.
I want to add one thing around. So you talked about like inspiration. So when I was kind of envisioning this, one thing that I had in my mind when I was working with Ponzi and Joe with the layout was that kind of spreading it. Kind of have I like those old Kurosawa films where it has that slow build. There is a specific film that it's called Female Convict Scorpion Jailhouse 41. It's a strange title, and there's only one line of dialogue. It's like a that jailhouse 70s sexploitation or jail exploitation they did in Japan. So that was one of the films. It's the same actress, Meijo Kaji, that was Lady Snowblood, for those that remember that. But it's on Tubi for free, so check that out if you guys haven't seen it. But I've always thought about, I like the spacing of films, and I thought that, usually comics, like, you have to have dialogue, but I thought that, maybe there's, can we have a silent graphic novel? I'm sure there's been some, but that's something that I thought about a lot.
Yeah, just like have the visuals tell the story. Almost like what Lauren was saying at the beginning is, there were a lot of times where she wouldn't write dialogue specifically so that Ponzi could highlight the artwork. And I mean, again, there's obviously writing in that because you need to know the scene. Between that and I'm gonna assume drawing off of Jacob and his experience and the way that he moved, being that he was the coordinator for everything.
Yep.
You can still get really good storytelling when you have we're wrestling fans, so like telling the story in the ring is one of the things that we talk about a lot, right? So it's like it's the same thing, right? It's you have the combat scenes and the battle scenes, and they tell the story. Actually, Kevin Smith just talked about it recently about how people give him praise for the fight scenes in Masters of the Universe season 2, and he just tells people, I had nothing to do with that. I literally wrote fight scene, and then animators would animate the fight scenes and make them look ridiculously amazing. So it's the ability to tell the story with just the visual medium that is just something that's just astounding to me.
Do you guys know the background on how we did the fight scenes?
I don't think so. I do.
Yeah, so we actually, with Jacob, who lives in Dallas, came over to the Bay Area. So Jacob, myself, and Lauren, we all did the choreography for it. So we had we blocked it with some action figures and stuff. I said, all right, this is what we're gonna do. We went to a park across the street, and I've taken some Philippine martial arts, and so has Lauren, and Jacob's the master at it. So we thought about all right, well, how could we do this scene as realistically as possible. So I set up a 360 camera, and the three of us acted it out. I even hurt my back doing some flips where Jacob threw me or something like that. But then we took the screenshots from the 360 camera, because we were able to move it around and say, all right, let's do this angle, let's zoom in here, and we sent those over to our Ponzi, our artist.
Oh, that's a dope way to do the storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I think Lawrence said something about that too. I made a comment. He's like, yo, they'd host each other up on ropes for what that flow would look like while they're going through the air. I'm like, I'd love to see that footage.
Yeah, and there's and if you look at these old 70s and 80s, like not any martial arts book, you see like those freeze frames, like here's sequence 1, here's sequence 2. So if you'll notice, some of the art kind of looks like those in those instructional books.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that in the previous interview we did, and I'm like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought that in that way. But yeah, it is very similar to it. And honestly, like I mentioned earlier about how I drew inspiration for the dialogue and whatnot from Avatar: Last Airbender, how they got the choreography for the martial arts scenes are from working with a martial arts consultant for that show as well. And it was like very similar. They would film the guy, and then they would send that footage to the animators to copy off of and animate the scenes.
I like that because that gives more realism than to the fights, obviously.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean the action scenes in general, like the martial arts are very, very, at least in Avatar, they're really, it's really accurate, and it looks like it's an actual person, doing it. And again, if you've seen the series, they translated it well on screen as well. The martial arts looks amazing, but I see the same thing in the book, because there are scenes like there's movement scenes that you guys have in the book, or at least that Ponzi drew, where it's clear cut, like you can see this is the way she's moving and the flow that she has, and kind of the movements that she has, especially when she's fighting the Spaniard. Sorry, spoiler. But I mean, like,
Fighting the big bad.
Fighting the big bad, yeah. Which the choices in that were awesome too. That you guys decided to do on there. Again, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to go and read the book. But like the choices you guys made with the villains, and especially if you know the history in the Philippines and kind of like how the Spaniards are and everything like that. I'm Nicaraguan, so I mean I have similar experience but different, right? Being that I have Aztec heritage, right? So that's very, very similar. Is quote unquote uncivilized people, just being that we weren't as advanced as they were because we didn't have guns and armor, but we were resourceful and we were ferocious, being both cultures. So I mean, like it's something that one I can relate to as far as my heritage goes, but also it's just awesome to see the way you guys put it in the book.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
For sure. Darren from chat is, with the fight scenes, what kind of came first? I guess the chicken or the egg, right? Did you do the fight scene and then you choreographed it out, or did you kind of work just in complete tandem with it?
I think from what I remember, Lauren, like we just had some like, okay, there's a fight scene here, and then we blocked it out, with some action figures, and then went outside. I think that's how it went. Was that right, Lauren? Or maybe there was some specific things from where Jacob said, all right, we have, because he was very anal about like, all right, the foot movement, the head, and then we just had to find like a happy medium and then go and record it.
Maybe. Because I remember how like you would use your action figures to say like, this is happening here, whereas over here, this is what's happening. So yeah, I don't remember what the order was, to be honest with you. But I also think it kind of depends on the sequence that we're referring to as well. Because if it's a shorter one, and I think we started off with just doing it outside. But for like the final battle sequence, I think we might have started with blocking it out first and then choreographing.
Yep.
And James wants to know, what action figures did you use?
Yeah, did have a Ron English, what's he called, Ronald McDonald. So if you probably Google that, you'll see it. And then I think, what was it? I think I had what action figure is that? I think Deadpool. So I have some Marvel guys, none of the expensive ones. So, you know, it was some of the ones that I just had on my shelf.
Oh, they had they had me as a
Yes, we will make you a dad pull action figure, Phil, just for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a dad, it's fine. It's okay.
Mhm.
Hold on, I've got something for this. I just gotta get to the soundboard. Ah.
As he trips, this is the always part where he runs across the room and trips on something.
I will shoot your fucking cat.
Mhm.
I feel just like a little girl.
So this is an interesting question that I know that Phil wrote out. I'm quite curious. Talk about your tattooing, Christian, your history. Do you prefer that traditional tattooing versus modern tattooing?
I mean, that's the only tattooing I know. So when I was doing calligraphy, I met my teacher. His name's Lane Wilkin. He's Filipino. He saw that I had in my apartment. I had a tattoo machine I bought off eBay because I was gonna do something on watercolor paper, poke holes in it or something like that. And he said like, hey, why don't you make a traditional tattoo tool, out of bamboo, out of boar's tusk, and just tap it in the paper. And I thought that would be interesting, so I did that, not knowing that he was kind of grooming me to become a practitioner. So then about 10 years later, that happened. But yeah, I don't know how to use machines. I never got that thing working, so I just threw it away. But yeah, for me, I think that the traditional way, 100% is the way that I'll do it. Even though there are a lot of challenges, because of just being in a I guess a modern world, right, where you have to deal with. I can never open up a tattoo shop. Look at it that way, unless I open it up in Hawaii, where this type of tattooing is a cultural practice. It's protected, at least in America.
So basically, what you're telling us is you're a badass because I like my all my tattoo work is like with a gun and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have anything that's traditional work. I've always thought about it, but it's like, oh man, I all I've heard from anybody who is in the tattoo world is just it's painful.
Yeah, machine hurts more because it's stabbing you like at a rate of like hundreds of times per second compared to hand tapping. And so the way a lot of like traditional hand tapping, like if you've seen the photos, is that they're usually lying down. There's people that are stretching the skin, and a lot of people, they kind of doze off, and it's done in ceremony. So it's usually your friends, family are around. We have like food offerings and things like that, and so it becomes a party. And that's not just for Filipinos, but then also the Hawaiians, the Samoans. It's all very similar. So it's a much different environment than at a shop where sometimes you don't even know who's tattooing you. A bunch of other strangers around, or each of you have your headphones on. So it's a quite a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, I am very heavily tattooed myself, but only with a gun, and that style has always interested me a lot because I always wondered what it would feel like, quite honestly. Because the worst for me was the kidney areas on my back when I got my back done. With the gun, and it felt like you got punched in the kidneys repeatedly for like days afterwards. Just as curiosity, when you get tattooed for hours with the gun, you get what they call tattoo flu, right? Where your body is fine. Have you heard anything like that? Is it just because it's a different process that it's easier to do?
Yeah, so well, usually like the tattoo flu, usually if you're getting like heavy black work done, like what you have on your arm, and so that is something that usually does not happen when traditional, because it's mainly like geometric. While there is black work, I'll say, for example, like, have you seen like the Samoan pea, which is their shorts? from their belly button to their knees, and they even go in the butt, so, and that's all black work. So it could happen, but for most, it doesn't. Most of the issues come, in the aftercare. You're not taking care of the tattoos. So even if you're using bone tools, most of the issues are during the aftercare.
Would you say the aftercare is still treated the same just because it is still technically a wound, right?
Yeah, definitely. And there's like some like like in the Pacific, instead of using Aquaphor or some tattoo balm, some just use fresh coconut oil.
Okay.
And that's what was used before as the natural healer.
Right. Like I said, it's always interested me just the process and just the difference. As you're right, going to the tattoo parlor, because everyone just goes, you can just go into a tattoo parlor and you get a tattoo from somebody you don't know, you never see again. I've had the pleasure of working with the same tattoo guy for 10 years now, so helping coordinate everything I've done. He's done most of my work, but yeah, I can definitely see people just going that. Just a huge difference. Like, I turned 18. I'm going to go get this butterfly on the back of my neck. Right.
Oh,
right. And I think I think even in your story where you have the tattoo scenes, it shows the cultural significance and difference that is there with that process.
Yeah. And my goal too is that with this cultural tattooing, pretty much every single culture, whether you're from Europe, Asia, Africa, you have a traditional tattoo practice, and so it's just up to you to kind of do that research and awaken. There's so much out there, wherever you're from, to dig into your own culture, and there's just a wealth of experiences out there to be had, I think. And I really like it when people kind of discover things from their own culture. They like 45 years old, they're, I just discovered this by talking to my mom. Never knew about this. Or they go back to wherever they're from, from France or whatever, they discover something. And I think that those things I hope that people do.
Yeah, I definitely went against my Dutch heritage of getting tattoos. That is pretty. Most circles I know in the Chicago area, Dutch people don't do that stuff. So.
Yeah, it depends how far back you
go. I mean, where my family's from, yeah, we are the oldest part of the Netherlands, so
yeah,
we're definitely pretty old. I'd be interested. You have me piqued. Interest to see if there is something there.
I did see something. I'm not sure where in the Netherlands, or maybe he just lives there. But he did like what he called like caveman stitching. So where they get the thread, they dip it in ink and they stitch, underneath the skin, and that leaves the marks.
That is interesting to say the least.
That sounds dope. But I mean, so like I and we're getting into tattoos now. Like we're about to nerd out on tattoos, but so a lot of people will mistake what I have right here for Polynesian, right? So this right here on the front.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will say, "Oh no, that's Polynesian." It's not. It's actually Matagalpa, which is a local tribe in Nicaragua.
There you go.
And that's specific for my heritage, right? I have obviously like an Aztec calendar on the front right here. You barely see it, right? Aztec calendar on the front and Matagalpa on the back, which are the two cultures that primarily make up Nicaragua.
Yeah, and I think they back in the day they used to hand poke.
Yes,
their tattoos. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, they would.
I mean, let's face it, I got used to the vibration in my bones. I did fall asleep getting tattoos, so it was.
I think I fell asleep when I got the Oni on my chest because I have a Onikage mask on my chest. And when I got the Oni on my chest, I think I fell asleep during that one.
Is that machine or like Taburi?
No, it's machine, but it's everything. It's all the same artist, so everything that I have on here was all my sleeve was all done by the same artist.
Got it.
I mean, that's that. I said we could talk about tattoos for hours, and most of our stuff is black and white. But let's talk about the style choices.
There we go. Look at the transition. Transition. And it's actually getting into the question that I was talking about wanting to ask earlier,
Mhm.
right? So there was a definite style choice, right? There was a clear choice to do the book in black and white and then with red accents to highlight certain scenes. So take us behind the decision to present the art in that way. Like, again, not to spoil what scenes were in red, but I mean, like,
Mhm.
why you guys decided to, do it in black, white, and red.
Yeah, so I think the majority of us, well, at least, Ponzi, who's the artist, Joe, who did the layout and did the art direction, myself, we're big fans of Frank Miller. So I think that's kind of the direct influence there, and
Mhm.
and as well as the old black and white Japanese films,
Mhm.
on my part, that was the influence. But for Joe and Ponzi, it was definitely Frank Miller. The original cover was a bit too much like a Hellboy, and I said, we get it, we love Frank Miller, but all right, this is
Like,
this is too much.
much like Magnolia, I need you guys to not do this right now.
Yeah, we're gonna get called out at the Comic Cons. They're gonna say they're gonna know that obscure issue, that this is based on. So we thought let's do something more original.
Mhm.
That actually happened to a friend of ours, and it was unintentional. There was an artist that gave them a piece of work, and it looked amazing and it was great, and it came to be, they were putting it out as a variant cover because they didn't know it came from something else. I guess it turned out that the artwork was essentially plagiarizing a Venom comic book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, like me personally, like I didn't look at any reference comics, and because I just don't want to take that chance.
Mhm.
Even though in my head, like I thought about that classic Wolverine cover, where he had the blades right by his face, and I thought, oh, that would be cool if we kind of do a version of that, which we kind of did. The cover, you'll see the Dasig with the sword,
Mhm.
right there. So, we definitely had to flash that.
And James wants to know, with it being black, white, and red, is that any cheaper to create a comic that way versus a full colorist?
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have to. I mean, Ponzi did all the artwork, but if
Hmm.
everything was in full color, I mean, it would definitely be more expensive because it's more time. Time is money. And yeah, definitely. As far as printing, um, not that much. I mean, because we were really big on printing,
Hmm.
so we needed to, choose the best quality, for the paper as well as the gloss and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the art style used it fits perfectly. I couldn't imagine it in full on color.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of prefer it the way it is. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's again, it was beautifully done. You guys
Mhm.
heard me at the top of the show. The way I described the book was a beautiful and historical highlight of history and Filipino heritage.
Yeah, and if you get into color, then people are gonna say, "Oh, they're too light skinned, they're too dark skinned. Oh, they didn't have that, or what they're wearing is a different kind of shade." And so we would have to get into all of that. So
Yeah,
it would be a big headache.
I'm sure the fanboys would just destroy everything because that's what they like to do.
Yeah, that, and then which we kind of prepared to, because that's why we said it's a historical fiction.
Hmm.
I think that anytime you kind of do something that is based on history, which is kind of blurry. I mean, this thing was hundreds of years ago. None of us were there, so you know, I think that we just wanted to have less risk around that. And we did actually see that there was actually a film that just came out, two films around this subject that the SIG is, that came out around the time when this comic released. One was released is a series from Spain, and then another one was from the Philippines.
Hmm.
And the let's say both were kind of crappy. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I said I don't want to spoil anything, but there's one scene in particular that that stood out. Was there any hard decisions of let's say a glimpse into something else, something coming
Yeah,
that you chose to put there?
I'll take that one, Lauren.
Can you repeat the question, please?
So there's a panel where we see a glimpse into things to come. Was there any choices, or was there any other options that you were putting in there for what would be glimpsed? I said I don't want to spoil anything.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I know the thing you were talking about. Well, what's interesting is that like Christian had like 5 different ideas for other things to include in this. Like I think there was at one point he wanted to bookend the story with something set in the future, in hopes of making room for maybe expanding more with whatever could come after Dasig. But because of the fact that nothing was set in stone at the time, and because it didn't really didn't go with everything else that was happening in the story, I said no. And so instead we came up with this idea for was ultimately I think the most powerful image in the entire graphic novel.
Yeah.
That not only hints on stuff in like the future beyond their own, but also does hint at stuff that has happened since that time period.
Right. For sure. Like I said, that was just it really stuck out as a great shot, a great panel for me.
Yeah, no, it's and again the artwork popping up and everything like that. It was kind of surprising given like what was going on in the book, and it was like, wow, it is a very powerful image.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes too. I mean, if there was any animation, I think that would be one of the scenes that would really stand out. And maybe we could just animate that one panel, just for a promo. I think that would be great.
Yeah, it's one of those images where you can almost hear it just from looking at it.
Awesome. So, I mean, as a team, James wants to know, he's a big collaborator marketing guy too. What's the collaboration like been with this team putting this out there? Do you guys sit into one meeting and kind of discuss it as you're going along?
We kind of worked in pods, I think. So Ponzi is based in Sydney, Australia. Jacob's based in Dallas. So it was one pod is like the art. So me, Joe, layout, art direction, and Ponzi artist, and then I was kind of in the middle of it because then I would work with Lauren, and so I think that's how we kind of worked.
Nice, for sure. And James also, we're just
I'll just highlight that.
Yeah. Which one are you gonna highlight?
I was gonna highlight the making a motion comic.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, you've taken these to cons and stuff like that, right? What's kind of the reception been for you guys?
It's kind of challenging. I mean, any I guess IP or new IP that one owns is difficult, because you're battling against the Marvels and all these other 1,000 things happening at a con. And then 2, I mean, the book cover is very minimal, and not that it's kind of like we have to go fishing, and fishing. When I say fishing, like we could fish for Filipinos, but then like how do you tell that story when everyone's running around trying to get so and so's autograph, and so it's kind of challenging. So I think you have to like do the work before. That's kind of like the big learning. We've only done a couple, and just by looking at other displays, what works, and like how to communicate something really fast is a challenge. But once they are hooked in, then they like it. It was a good reception. But the challenge is how do you get their attention, or 20 seconds just to talk to them about it.
Yeah, like almost like an elevator pitch situation. There's also the fact that we're not like Dasig is not the most obvious forward-facing Filipino comic because like you'll think of like franchises like Lumpia and Diwata and Cuento, and those are words that people are very familiar with that are associated with Filipino culture. With Dasig, like I recently put a post on our Instagram recently explaining what Dasig translates to in Cebuano. So then there's also the factor of like, for any Philippine American attendees who are going to whichever con we're at, it's also trying to get their attention to and realize, hey, this is your culture being represented right here, so you should check it out.
Yeah, but they don't know, unless we put like a Jollibee logo at our booth or something. I think maybe that'll, or actually, I'm gonna do that for WonderCon. I'm gonna get a bucket of Jollibee and just put it on the table, even though it's empty, and just so people go, oh, okay, this is definitely a Filipino booth.
There
right
is a
here.
Jollibee near the convention center. I have been told.
Oh man.
Who is it? Selena Gomez's boyfriend right now is getting all kinds of backlash on the internet right now because he said Jollibee sucked.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even know she was in a relationship.
I forgot who she's dating. He's a producer.
Benny something.
Benny Blanco. Benny Blanco.
Yeah.
I'm sure we won't be talking about this in about a couple of weeks when she breaks up with him.
Yeah. Benny Blanco apparently did a quote unquote taste test of Jollibee, and he hated on everything. He talked about like he hated the chicken. He didn't like the adobo rice. And his whole thing was he was saying because his stepmom was Filipino and he had real Filipino food when he was growing up, so he didn't like it.
Yeah.
So it's that whole authenticity BS again. Yeah,
and the internet is tearing him a new asshole, which is much deserved. And he did another video, and they did not let up. But he did another video to try and redeem himself. He went and had the new spicy chicken sandwich, and was just raving about it like it was the best thing ever. And like everybody was hopping on his TikTok saying, "Oh, so all of a sudden now you're a fan because everybody hates you?" No, fuck you, dude. And they were just like, still like just wrecking him, and it was just like, I was just like, yeah, deserving, man. Just can't hate on Jollibee. It's one of the biggest franchises in the world right now.
Hey, there's actually ones buying me now. That's good.
Dude, Jollibee is popping up everywhere right now.
Yeah, and they just released that they're finally gonna release merch. So because people have been bootlegging, their stuff for years. You go to Etsy, you'll see all this Jollibee crap. So now they're gonna release their own merch. But I think 2 years ago they did release a capsule collection with what was that streetwear brand? Some streetwear brand, and sold out. It was like $150 a shirt. So finally they're about to do it.
Well, there's a Jollibee. There's a what am I trying to say right now? There is a Jollibee Funko Pop.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, the bee's been around for forever, dude. Have you not seen the videos of the Jollibee like dancing?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to look up those TikToks, man. Like that Jollibee mascot suit is so ridiculously articulate. It's almost creepy. Like the way that it blinks and the way that it like the mouth moves and all that. It's like it's more Disney than Disney.
If I would have seen it anywhere, it'd probably have been on Last Week's Night with John Oliver.
I'm sure he's played it at some point.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel like that's a meeting waiting to happen on his end.
Yes, for sure.
But like basically it's twerking, dude, and it's like it's going ham.
Wow. But I mean, with marketing, how what's your following like with social media? How do you get this into people's hands? Where can they get this? Where can they get that from you? Get this comic?
They can go to Dasig dasig.ph, and from there, we have a link to purchase. We're doing some cons. One of the challenges is that we only have that one book. I have another book out, but our friends, like the Lumpia guy, they got like how many issues? Cuento Comics, Diwata, shout out. They have a lot of issues. We just have two, and Dasig's the main one right now. So it's kind of challenging to do all these cons. So eventually, I think we've me and Joe, the art director, we've started a publishing company. So we want to be able to publish other folk stories that kind of toe that edutainment style.
Mm-hmm. I know you're saying entertainment, and I didn't feel like I was, it flowed perfectly with the story, with the education and the background. It wasn't like people talk about educational games where it just feels like, yeah, they're teaching me something. I know they're teaching me something, versus it being an intriguing story and that you are learning something along the way.
It didn't feel like it was. It didn't feel like it was like an education thing at all though, the entire time. It just felt like a good story.
Yeah,
that's thanks to Lauren.
Yeah.
So I mean, aside from getting it online, and also at the concept. Oh, that's from the Hello Hello panel.
Yep.
I made sure to tell the artist to have her in black and white, so that way no one would be like, "Who's that?" Seeing her in full color. But yeah, other than our website and other than the cons, we also have it in 3 bookstores right now. They're all in the Bay Area though. We're at Archipelago Books in San Francisco. We're at Chris's Comics in Newark, and we're at Banter Bookshop in Fremont. We're trying to expand out more. Again, if you go to our Instagram, which is @Dasig1521, there is a post on there saying how you can help spread the word about Dasig. And one of the ways is being like going to your favorite local comic book store and being like, hey, I'm interested in buying this book. Can you guys think about carrying it? Because like we're in a usually large team for a graphic novel, but we're an unusually small team for like getting the word out. So it's very grassroots. And as the saying goes, it takes a village.
Yeah. And besides, the comics, we also, go into like these a lot of Filipino festivals and educational conferences. So we're at those events as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know if we said this yet. We're going to be at WonderCon at the end of this month in Anaheim. So you'll be able to catch us there. And Christian will actually be on the Hello Hello panel there.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
So you guys, and this is just throwing it out there, the Hello Hello panel, you guys started that at New York Comic Con, right?
I know that the Hello Hello panel just in general, I think started New York Comic Con. Don't quote me on that because I think that's Pat. I think that's all Pat who had organized it initially. But we were just kind of added on later on with LA Comic Con and then upcoming with WonderCon. So yeah, Christian's doing this one, and I did the previous iteration of it in LA.
Nice. No, yeah, that's kind of where we found you guys. It's because I was looking for Lawrence, right? And they were like, "Well, he's at the Hello Hello panel." I was like, "The what?" And I just like beelined it to the panel, and I was like, "This is dope," I was like super excited about it. So,
yeah, Lawrence has been a real help. Just trying to navigate this whole industry. He's a vet and such a nice guy. And always down to collaborate, and him and his son as well. So I mean, I hope to work with them in the future.
Yeah. Lawrence and his son Diego actually were the artists for the comic that I wrote for the most recent Lumpia comic, Giant Size Lumpia. So I wrote the story that's set at Fogtown High, and they were the artists behind it.
Nice. Yeah. Not going to say what it is, but Diego's working on a secret project for us too. So he's should be seeing something soon here, hopefully.
Nice. That's awesome.
Awesome.
But yeah, so we're going to get into some wrap-up questions here. Let's see. So I'm going to ask you guys one of the hardest questions that you've ever been asked in your life.
Oh, no.
Now, normally, The question I ask is in regard to my culture, but I'm changing it up a little bit because this is an equally hard question. What is your favorite kind of lumpia?
Oh. Huh.
I'll talk. So I like right now. My favorite one is from the Lumpia Company. If you're ever here in the Bay Area, they're in Oakland. E40 is the co-owner of it, and they make like bacon cheeseburger lumpia. They make I like the tinola, which is a chicken soup, but they make a bunch of different kinds of lumpia. So those ones are my favorite right now.
There's a Filipino like a bubble tea shop up here in the Sacramento area called Lolly Cup.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and every now and then they don't always have it, but every now and then they have pepperoni pizza lumpia.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like pizza rolls, but in lumpia form.
Yeah, but it's like lumpia form, and it just tastes so much better.
I believe that.
What about you, Lauren? What's your favorite kind of lumpia?
I mean, first of all, thank you for telling me about that place. I don't know when I'll next be in Sacramento, but I will check them out.
Yeah, it's actually in Roseville, but like, yeah, if you're ever up this way, Lolly Cup, yeah.
Lolly Cup, got it. Okay. Well, Christian stole the idea I was having is that the Lumpia Company has such incredible flavors.
Yeah.
I think I recall I had a kimchi fried rice one once. So, I think at one of the earlier Undiscovered events, and that was really good.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not really lumpia, but it's in the same family. I mean, I really like duron, which is like a sweet banana flavored lumpia.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have a sweet tooth, so I would probably go with that.
Yeah, so do I. I was gonna say, Lolly Cup. So they just generally have a bunch of different like Filipino food. So they have different kinds of sisig there too.
Oh, okay.
And they also have I just all of a sudden forgot the name of it right now, and it's like one of the favorite things in the world.
I mean, while Phil is thinking, he knows that everyone was looking for places around me that sold lumpia, so I was able to have it the first time last year.
Oh yeah, I specifically looked it up. I was like, "What is the closest place that has lumpia that's by his house?" And sent it to him.
It's not Jollibee.
No, it's not. No, Chicago is a big pizza and Italian and Polish area, so.
Well, I mean, you have your own pizza, so yeah.
Yeah. For me though, like I thoroughly enjoy it. I sent pictures to the distillery crew and everything with it.
Yeah.
Even also when I had birria for the first time too, I sent it to Phil too, just to get his approval for that.
And I'm just remembering it now. Siningag.
Oh, okay.
Like my favorite breakfast. That was with some tocino, and like I'm in heaven.
Yeah. Ooh, you're making me hungry. I didn't have dinner yet.
But they have like all kinds of different ones that you can get that are there. So it's great stuff. So what's some advice that you guys might have for anyone trying to get into the comic industry?
I think just do it. There's a lot. I meet a lot of people like the past 10 years that I've been doing this public, because I've published other books and done a bunch of other things. Is like, just do it. I mean, we have the technology, right? You could just use Amazon on demand, Lulu. There's so many things, but actually write something. It doesn't have to be perfect, and just put it out there. And I think starting off small with something that you're passionate about, that is the way to go. I mean, and I think that's the hardest part, is people just actually taking action. Everyone has ideas, and they think about like oh, I want to make this a film and all that stuff. But start small.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say something similar. It's just do it, and no, I'm not sponsored by Nike. But I mean, like our moderator at the previous Hello Hello panel made a good point about how, bulk of us who were featured there, Olympia, Cuento, Diwata, and us, like our works for the most part have emerged within the last 4 years, largely in part because of the pandemic. This is like one of the few good things that have come out of it is that we were able to have this time to sit down and really think about telling these stories. And it's like Christian said, the resources are there now. They're available to us where we don't really have to worry about, breaking into the industry. We could just do it ourselves if we wanted to and collaborate with others. So yeah, if you have a good idea, I say go for it and bring along friends on the way.
Yeah.
Because if you remember in the 80s and 90s, you had to like print something out. You have to go to like Kinko's and then photocopy and then staple and then send it out to a publishing company. So, I think having that experience or, making zines and things like that. And now like you could just type something on your phone, literally upload it somewhere, and then in a week get a hard copy. I think take advantage of the technology.
For sure.
All right. So who would win in a fight? The barangay or the Aztec in a hand-to-hand combat situation, no weapons?
I think it depends.
Because the barangay win because they had better weapons overall, but we're talking stone knives versus like actual knives. So like,
yeah, I don't know. That would be we have to figure out how are they gonna fight? They have to like take boats to the middle and meet halfway.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a hierarchical. It's like somebody grabs the best warrior from the barangay and somebody grabs the best warrior from the Aztec, and they put them in a ring.
Yeah. I would think that probably the barangay, because I can speak from experience and growing up here in the East Bay, so seeing some fights, and I just have to say it might be different. I've seen the barangay, kind of. I don't want to. Hopefully, there's no one in the chat, from like '97, in high school. But no, I've seen it.
Sergeant Early Bird, are you on Instagram right now? Just if he's on Instagram, there might be it's a possibility.
Yeah. No, but that's something that I would like to see, though. I think that should be like the next, Street Fighter.
And just like cultural warriors from I think there is a game that has that, but it's more like European and like traditional like Viking versus samurai kind of thing, and not so much like like grabbing, like I said, like grabbing an Aztec and grabbing a barangay or grabbing a like different warriors from different cultures and putting them in an even fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's different. Like the whole reason that the Spanish wiped out the majority of our cultures was because they had guns and armor, and we were running around in loincloths with like spears. So it's like if you were to even the playing field, I feel like we would have dominated. Like our cultures would have dominated because we were just much more ferocious warriors.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, James.
Yeah, you better check out the book, James.
Oh, James.
James is two things. He is another co-host of this show. He's also the producer and manager for this show. So it's like you don't have a choice, dude. You need to read this. That and also he's Filipino, so no choice.
There you go.
Yep. It is true. If you are Filipino, this is required reading.
James is also amazing.
Oh, James.
All right, guys. So what's next for you guys? I know you guys just mentioned Anaheim, but is there any other shows that you guys are doing in between then, or anything else that you guys have going on?
Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, funny you say that, James. I have Jollibee with me. I stopped by Jollibee before I started recording the podcast. I mean, other than WonderCon, I mean, right now I'm just finishing up the screenwriting program through UCLA. I'm almost done with winter quarter, and then after this, I have one more quarter. I already finished. We are required to write 2 feature-length screenplays, and I already finished the first one a little over a month ago, and so I've since started working on the second one. I think they were both very fulfilling stories to tell, especially with the second one I'm working on, and they're both centered on mixed Filipino American protagonists, which, quite frankly, you don't see too many of in films, even now. So, yeah, I want to make that happen.
Show Graveyard the Jollibee.
Yeah, there is a Jollibee in Chicago, I believe.
There is.
It might
is.
be in the city.
It's empty, but this was a pineapple quencher.
Ah,
There you
okay.
go.
That is supposed to be like the best drink. I haven't had one of those. It's supposed to be like the best drink in existence, though.
It is.
That
Mhm.
and if you haven't had the mango pie, oh god, so good.
I like the peach mango pie. When I buy them, I put in the fridge and I have them the next day cold. It tastes
Ooh,
really
yeah.
good. Try that.
Actually, the location I was just at, they have an ube pie as well.
Ooh, every now and then, because they don't always have it, but because you know, I'm from San Francisco, so Jollibee. Well, you have the one in Daly City, but then there was also the one that was downtown. And I would go to the downtown one, and every now and then they didn't always have it, but every now and then they'd have a halo halo.
Yeah, that's not available at all of the locations. Like the one that's close to me, it doesn't sell it. But hey, I mean, where there's a Jollibee, there's also a Red Ribbon, since they're owned by the same company, and they have halo halo.
Yeah, Red Ribbon is another. I used to go to the one in Vallejo all the time. Yeah, every time I went to not Great America, to Six Flags, we would stop by Red Ribbon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I think Six Flags for a while had a Red Ribbon like shop inside of Six Flags. It was like a little stand though. It wasn't like a whole shop. It was like a little pop-up stand that was in there.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And this is the Six Flags close to Vallejo, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't been there since I was in high school, I think, so I had no idea about that.
Yeah, I like vividly remember that that they had like the Red Ribbon that was there. Funny enough, my neighbor is Filipino. She for Christmas she got us ube flan. It was so good.
Ooh, yeah, that does sound really good.
Yeah. So guys, now that we're all hungry, which is
Christian hasn't shared what he's doing next.
well, no, yeah. What do you got coming up, Christian?
Oh, yeah. So WonderCon end of this month in Anaheim. I'm writing in the process of writing or another short comic. So after Dasig, I kind of watched Lauren in our process. You know what? Let me give this a try. So then I released something called Fire Apoy ni Lakapati, Fire of Lakapati. And it's a short story about a tattoo practitioner in the Philippines where the practice becomes outlawed, and then he has to turn into illegal logging. And then when setting fire to the forest, he sees a mysterious woman. And so I'll leave it at that. But I'm writing in the process of writing another one. Might not be out till the end of this year, early next year. But other than that, just doing the tattooing, traveling. Actually, it might be in SAC in April.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's a store there called Happy Niyama. I think they're in Rancho Cordova. So we might be doing like a talk or a pop-up up there.
Oh, for sure, dude. You got to make sure you hit us up so we can make it out.
For sure.
We would love to meet in person. James can talk to you about tattoos, even though he's never going to get one.
Oh no, James has to get one. I heard that it's law. He has to get one now.
On the face.
James, the original Kuya. Okay, so Where so where can everybody find you guys? Like if everybody wants to learn more about you, I've got it scrolling on the bottom of the screen, but for like further anything else, if anybody wants to know more about you guys, where can they find you?
You can find me at my website, kabuay.com. And right there, right underneath my name. So, from there, link to socials and all that stuff. So, check it out. Hit me up if you have any questions around tattooing or, publishing, anything like that.
All right. Lauren, where can everybody find you if they want to learn more?
Well, other than the Dasig Instagram, which is scrolling at the bottom, I am on Instagram at Ako Lauren Lola, AKO my name. My website is lolabythebay.wordpress.com, and that's kind of like the ultimate hub where you can find out all of what I'm doing. All the press for Dasig is listed on there as well, and so forth.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, we thank you for coming on.
Yes.
Let's see. We've got about 10 minutes here. If you guys have the time here, Graveyard, how much of the bracket do we have left?
About we're not even to our final 8 yet. So
okay, well maybe we can get like 2 votes in here before we go. If you guys are unfamiliar here, basically we do nerd brackets. Typically we usually start that at 7 o'clock, but the conversation has been so good that we just said forget it and let's keep talking. So yeah, we'll just knock out like a couple here before we go. If you guys have the time, if not, I mean you got to take off. That's fine too.
Oh, sure, I'm good.
All right, cool. So right now our bracket is scariest video game characters.
Video game series.
Video game series. That's what we're doing.
And it's survival horror video games at this point. Because then we're gonna take this list and then per someone in the chat's suggestion. I'm working on compiling characters, and then we're gonna say what's the scariest character. So, we've been doing like some survival horror right now. So kind of first up we have, so we had last week, we talked about Resident Evil versus Silent Hill, which was a quick one to get to that point already. Silent Hill beat that out, only because of Geek Saga's vote, his off-screen votes that he had there. Determine that one, as well as I think they also voted Dead Space over Evil Within too. His person he was with. So
that's a scary game.
Yeah, for sure. So first up we have Condemned, which I think there's only been 2 of them, and I think they're doing a remake, right?
Yes, they are doing a remake of it right now.
Versus PT, the playable trailer or playable teaser from
Silent Hill.
Yes. Kojima.
Silent Hill. Yeah. I don't know. Condemned is a very
it's brutal.
I was gonna say psychological brutal game.
Mm-hmm.
But PT was like it was horror. It was scary shit. So I mean, I kind of, and if again, it's not a full game, so it's kind of where it has like a pitfall a little bit because it wasn't able to become a full game and everything like that because Kojima left and didn't want to work with them anymore.
Right.
It was with Konami, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was right around when he left Konami.
Mm-hmm.
And we were robbed of a potentially amazing video game, but yeah, Condemned is one of those games that was ridiculously kind of like off-putting because of like the way that the gore and horror kind of like jump at your face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so good that they're remaking it. So
yes,
it's like the opposite with video games that it is with like movies. You remake a movie because the first one sucked, versus you remake a video game because it was so good you want to make it scarier.
They don't remake bad movies. They only remake good movies and they make them worse.
There's that.
True. Fantastic Four.
Oh my god! Oh, so bad.
Well, which one?
All of them. Even the one that's supposed to come out soon, I think that's gonna suck.
So spoiler for my show coming up next month. I actually have the art guy who did the Roger Corman Fantastic Four come on my show.
Mm.
Oh man, Roger Corman for Fantastic Four is a whole different monster.
Yeah.
Talk about low
Oh,
budget.
don't let him see this episode.
No, but that's the thing is Graveyard. His tagline on his show is "I watch bad movies, so you don't have to."
Mhm.
That sounds like the nostalgia critic.
Yeah, but I dive deep into some crap, but but for this though, I mean, we have Condemned coming out, the remake of it, and it's kind of like that. Do you what's scary, the in your face horror and gore of it all, or the psychological something's always following you from behind that you can never really see, right? To me,
And
PT
it's
is
Norman Reedus.
oh yeah.
Or I guess it was supposed to be Norman Reedus. They never. It's somebody who hacked the code figured that out.
Yes. So for me, PT is getting my vote just because it is that something's always behind you, something always following you. You can turn around and it's never really there, right? So that's more unnerving to me, and it makes a better game over it than Condemned.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the other thing is like, it's playing on your paranoia,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's playing on like, oh my god, something is following me, something is behind me. And knowing that it was a Silent Hill game, I mean, more than likely there is some level of evil that is following you. And of course, you have that weird, like, you know, almost Slender Man like character that pops up at the end. But I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that the thing about Condemned is it's like a level of like realism scary kind of thing,
Right.
you know, versus the unknowing with PT. So yeah, I think I'll go PT too.
I would say Wong saying Condemned.
Say Wong says Condemned. By the way, breaking news, it was just confirmed. Akira Toriyama just passed away. The creator of Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 68 years old.
That's not that old.
He's not. He wasn't. NHK
Oh,
confirmed it,
wow.
and I think they're saying Bird Studios just put out a statement. I'm sure Kotaku's already said something about it too. So it's just that's what's going on in the chat right now. Everybody's talking about Akira Toriyama just passed away.
Oh, that's sad.
Say Wong saying 8 years into pensioner age. Yeah. Not in this country.
In this country, he was 4 years into pensioner.
If that. What about you, Christian or Lauren? Have you played any of these games? Do you have any votes one way or the other?
I used to play Silent Hill, so any, but that was a long time ago. But anything Silent Hill, gets my vote.
Yeah, PT was if you didn't get a chance to do that, it was a playable demo that was on, was it PS4?
PS4. Yep.
Yeah, it was a playable demo that was on PS4 when the PS4 launched. And Kojima, the guy who did Metal Gear Solid, he was doing a Silent Hill remake and starring Norman Reedus, and it was terrifying. Like just everything about it. It's that signature storytelling from that Kojima's like famous for with like Metal Gear Solid and all that kind of stuff, the Metal Gear games, but translated into a horror game. So it was actually really scary.
Yeah, because there's always, unfortunately, there's a huge black market for PS4 that has PT installed on it because you cannot download it anymore. It's gone. So that scarcity was created. Now, people with the let's say Video Game Preservation Act that tries to keep copies of things, right? You can still play it. It's been redone as a downloadable thing you can play on your PC now too. So that's how I played it. And it's very unnerving. Like I said, I can see, because let's face it, in horror movies, yeah, you can have this really graphic stuff, but even in action movies and war movies, that you still have that in your face violence that is still there. So to me, it's not the same.
Yeah.
So PT does move on though. So all right, I think we got time for one more. Outbreak. So the Contagion stuff versus the Forest, where you are a survivalist, and if you at night humans are trying to hunt you and kill you to eat you, and if you have any sort of light source on in the dark, they will find you. So you have to survive in the forest with cannibals hunting you all the time. What do you think, Phil?
I think I'm gonna go with the Forest. There's something guttural about cannibal people following you in the dark. And it's like, especially when you're playing a game and it's like you can't use the light and you can only see what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's just like, oh my God, that was a thing, right? It's almost like how it's like there's a level of jump scare in that, but it's mostly, the unknowing. And it's the fear of being caught, knowing that if you get caught, you die.
Right. Yeah. So I won't say the Force. I say the Force as well, just because it is that there is, everyone wants to live in that big house on the edge of the forest, right? And for some reason, they want to have, windows as their entire walls to see on the outside, until you realize that things can see you peering into the dark forest. That human nature has always been there, looking into the dark forest, that we think the evil resides from, that witches live in, that all these mythological and folklore and cryptids all exist in this area, because when we walk into the forest as humans, we are not the apex predator. We are the loud, clunky thing making noises as we walk and not being quiet, while everything else is trying to stay quiet and stay alive.
Right.
And we're just tromping our ways through it. So yeah, I think that has a bigger fear of the unknown, of things that are more, at home in the forest.
What do you guys think?
I mean, I don't really play video games, so
It's just based on the descriptions, though.
Yeah, essentially, zombie outbreak versus humans hunting you.
Yeah, it's COVID the video game.
I mean, at least I would probably say the humans would be more terrifying, because at least the zombies, you have somewhat of an idea of what to expect.
Mhm.
But humans are unpredictable.
Right.
Yeah, I'd have to say the Forest. I mean, I kind of experienced that when I went to visit the old lady Wang Od in January. We arrived at like 6 p.m. Up in the mountains, and it was pitch black, and we had to go down a ravine. It takes an hour to go down and then to go back up, and it was pitch black, and so it was pretty scary. Not because you might fall off a cliff, but it's just, as you said, Phil, the unknown. And that's the scary. If you see something that you know of, at least, all right, got to punch this thing in the face or whatever, can run, but just not knowing anything, that's scary.
Oh yeah. All right, so the Forest moves on. So we'll leave it today.
Yep. We're at time right now. So one more time before we take off, guys. Give us your social medias one more time for anybody that may want to find you here.
Yeah, you can look me up. It's under my name, Christian Kabuai, all over social media, as well as my website, kabuai.com.
I'm at Echo Lauren Lola on Instagram and also Threads. And be sure to also follow Dasig at Dasig1521. That's where you'll get all the latest updates about our little graphic novel, That Will.
Sweet.
Definitely that will. Graveyard. Where can everybody find you, man, outside the DN sphere here?
Outside of DN sphere, You can find me. I'm co-host of the Mostly Pod Out at Night Mostly podcast. You can find that
Pod. Night, mostly.
new episodes releasing every Wednesday at ComicConRadio.com right now, along with our good friends at Geek Saga and Disney here as well. You can find our Conversations in the Void. We have live podcasts where we talk to people in the horror realm in the world and just, have a good time. Last night we had indie actor Thomas O'Brien, and he is awesome. He just did a movie with the one and only Lloyd Kaufman that is coming out soon. So make sure to check that out and follow us on all social media at Pod Out at Night. And coming soon as well, we have independent films, trailers, and features and short films as well for Horror Raven. I'm actually leaving tomorrow night to go film something else. So make sure to check us out on all social media at Horror-Raven as well.
Awesome. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, you know who I am, your boy Young Phil, Distance Nerding Podcast. You can follow us on all the social medias, all the places that exist on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, Discord, MySpace, Vine, GeoCities, Friendster, Second Life, AIM, Farmers Only, Christian Mingle, OnlyFans. It's only pictures of Aaron Watson's feet and mandals and the beard. And James's glasses.
Ooh.
Pictures of James's glasses. That's it. Just that on the desk. Beautiful. At Distance Nerding. And of course, if you'd like us to break up with your boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, pet, schoolyard bully, annoying neighbor, or just tell us how much you enjoy us, hate us, or wish the internet would consume us and spit us out at the feet of zombies in the middle of the woods, combining the two games there, send us an email at distnerding@aol.com, and we will read your email live on air. So that is it from us, guys. It is now time for the dance party. Lauren and Christian, I didn't warn you about the dance party, but the dance party is basically once you hear the theme, grab something around you, a toy, drawing, anything, and just make it dance on screen. That's essentially it. Fun stuff. So let's get this going, guys. It is now time to get your dance on. He'll give you the example here.
Hashtag not a spawn.
Yeah. Hashtag not a sponsor.
Distance Nerding.
Painting some happy trees. Everything looks beautiful out there, out in Happy Land. And my advice to you is don't smoke meth and snort ketamine. It's bad.
I'm still going.
He's got the phone dancing now. Yeah.
The cover is that movie Ghost.
See everybody next week.
Bye.